Hi there, Nick here from Conservation Careers and welcome to the podcast. Now, what's it like to study and protect turtles in the stunning waters of Egypt's Red Sea? And how can citizen scientists and local communities play a key role in marine conservation efforts? And what are the biggest threats facing sea turtles today? Well, today's guest is Micol Montagna, biologist and project coordinator at TurtleWatch Egypt 2.0. Micol has dedicated her career to marine conservation and using citizen science and innovative research to monitor and protect turtles along Egypt's Red Coast Sea. In this episode, we explore the vital role Egypt plays in global conservation for turtles and how TurtleWatch Egypt identifies and tracks individual turtles alongside the importance of community engagement in marine protection. Micol also shares her career journey, insights in working in marine conservation and advice for aspiring marine biologists, perhaps like yourself. It's a hands-on and an action-focused podcast. Enjoy. There we go. And then we can forget it's recording.
All right.
Yeah. So I will record like an introduction later once we've had our chat and I know what we've talked about and I can sort of introduce it a bit better in that way. But the easiest way to get going is, would you mind just saying your name and your job title, literally, and then we can go from there?
Yeah. All right. So good afternoon. My name is Micol Montagna and I'm a biologist and I'm the project coordinator at TurtleWatch Egypt 2.0.
Wonderful. Well, really nice to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining. I'm really interested to know more about TurtleWatch Egypt 2.0 and the various other things that you're involved with as well in your career history. Yeah, we're here to talk all things turtle, all things marine conservation. And I want to know a bit more about Egyptian conservation too, which is really interesting. But let's start with turtles because that's what we're here to discuss and the kind of thrust of our discussion today. So, you're the project coordinator for TurtleWatch Egypt 2.0. Tell me a little bit about turtles in Egypt. Let's just start from there. Is Egypt important for turtles? What species do you find?
Sure. So Egypt actually is having the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So what we focus on is the Red Sea, actually. I'm Italian, so I'm supposed to be more into Mediterranean Sea, but I'm not. I'm here in the Red Sea since 2012. So this is where let's say I'm more expert about the Red Sea. So marine turtles in the Red Sea, we have 5 species of turtles. Yeah. Around the world, we have 7 species of marine turtles. So 5 means quite a lot. So the Red Sea, in few words, is a very, very rich sea. High biodiversity, not just about marine turtles, but also about coral reef, very resilient reef. So it's a very, very precious place. And I'm in love with it, of course, because it's beautiful, but I believe it's really, really, really important to underline how it's important to preserve it. It's really in my opinion, one of the best underwater places in the world. So we have 5 species of marine turtles, and along the coast, we mostly see 2 species, the hawksbill turtles and the green turtles. Here, where our office is and where I'm talking from, is Marsa Alam, which is located in the southern part of the Egyptian Red Sea coast. And here we have a lot of very, very interesting and important feeding grounds especially for green turtles. So actually, when you go in the water and you go even just snorkeling for fun, you may spot several different individual turtles. And we conduct we call them regular surveys to check how to monitor the marine turtle population. And in some places, we can spot up to 20 or 25 different individuals. Wow. So Egypt is really, really important for marine turtles.
And what are some of the kind of the threats to turtles? Are they thriving? Are they declining? What might be causing any changes?
This is a very, very important question. And unfortunately, I don't have a very clear answer because actually Egypt is data deficient. We don't really have clear, solid scientific data here. It's very important to underline that our project is a relatively small project. We're running since 2011, so we have quite a good history, but it's a citizen science project. So we don't really run active research. We don't have this solid data that can tell us what is the situation of the marine turtles here, neither what is the extent of the threats. What we can say is what we see from our project. And what we see as a threat, for example, is collision with speedboats plastic pollution, which is pretty much everywhere, and I would say as a third point, human disturbance. Okay, so this is what we can see. Of course, this is not just that, but this is what we can see with our monitoring, with our citizen science program.
Yeah.
Okay, and the same for the status. We are not able at the moment to say if the population is declining or not. What we can see is that, I will give you an example. In the last 2 summers, we got really, really high temperature during summer. So we could see a decline in the amount of seagrass in the main feeding ground areas here. And therefore, we also saw a little bit less individual turtles, but this is just an observation. I mean, it's not something that it can be validated as, okay, now the population is declining. This is just observations. So as a citizen science, I don't know if you want me to mention shortly what that means.
Please do. Yeah, we're going to talk about, your project, so feel free to describe it. Yeah.
All right. So citizen science means that we involve non-researchers, non-scientists, non-biologists, whoever actually can contribute to our data collection. So any snorkeler and diver submit sightings of turtles to us. We get the photographs along with all the information related to the sightings, especially the dive site and date, and some extra for who wants to be the so-called pro turtle watchers. And we analyze the photographs, and we use the photo identification technique, which is a technique in which we use the natural markers of the animals in order to identify them to the individual level. So we receive the photos, we can tell the species, and we can tell the individual as well. So, oh, this is John, oh, this is Maria, or this,
You
so
give them names?
Yes, this is the other very cool part of the project. And this is how we actually get the people involved, because this is part of the trick. You have to, let's say, convince the tourists to contribute to our project. So we can monitor marine turtles in this way. We can say, okay, Joe was in this bay in this day, and then he moved on this day, or at least we know that this day was already in this other site, for example. So this is how we can monitor them. We don't tag them, we don't follow them. We just use sightings provided by people. Okay. So photo identification is very, very, very cool and powerful, as long as you have a lot of people sharing their sightings, of course. So this is the fact. We try to expand our network as much as possible, and our main partners are actually the diving centers. We train diving center staff so that they can themselves train their tourists, so that they can, first of all, share code of conduct, how to behave when you see marine turtles in the water or while nesting, and how you can actively participate in the project. So any diver and snorkeler going to have fun in the Red Sea can actually become a turtle watcher and contribute to a research project. So this is the main thing of the activity. We have about 96 diving centers collaborating with us, and this is the clue part, so it's very important. So coming to the question you asked before, yes, we give names to the turtles. The first times I was doing my own surveys, we do our own surveys to validate the data we received by the citizen scientists. I was just giving very boring codes as names to the turtles. And then when we started to get more and more citizen scientists, then why not? We decided to invite them to pick the names. And then things became more interesting and more attractive to people, so that they wanted to find their own new turtle that they could register. So this is the way how we actually keep people engaged. And we have some citizen scientists that are so happy to share their sightings that they come here 3-4 times a year, and they build their own little catalog, and they're able even to identify the turtles themselves.
That's amazing. I love it. I love almost like the simplicity of it too, and how anyone can get involved, and how the data is helping you to understand turtle behavior, presumably over time changes as well in dynamics, things like that. Loads of questions. Well, one is like, how easy is it to identify an individual, and how do you do that? Are you doing that as a trained individual like yourself? You're looking at photos, are you using some software? Is AI getting involved? Like, how good is that side of it?
Good question as well. So the answer for the moment is we do it manually.
Yep.
This is how most of photo identification-based turtle conservation projects work, actually. The human eye is the most accurate thing you can use. The point is that it's taking really a lot of time. We have, for example, received so far more than 10,000 sightings, and we have in our catalog more than 850 individual turtles registered, but then we have all the ones that are not completely registered. We know they're different individuals, but they're not registered. What means registered? It means that for that very individual, we have both the head sides of the turtle. I didn't mention that before, photo identification, but what kind of markers we use for marine turtles, I didn't mention that. So we use the facial profiles. So we use the sides of the head. They have a very specific pattern that they are unique for every single individual, and they never change over time. This makes marine turtles extremely good for the photo identification. Like with dolphins, for example, you know that researchers use the dorsal fin, but the dorsal fins are not really staying the same for all the life of the animal, and they're looking really similar to each other. So with turtles, it's much easier, but as well, of course, it's time consuming. I mean, you really need a long time. So we are trying to, we got some volunteers involved. They are engineers, they are people having better knowledge than what we have about such things. They are trying to use artificial intelligence to develop an app that can actually help us to at least reduce the number of photos we have to check.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
The next step would be to try to automate a little bit more the process of the photo identification, because this would really help us a lot.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you're working with, was it 96 different dive centers? Like how open have they been to a project like this? Have they sort of, do they view themselves as custodians of the marine environment? Do they think of themselves as conservationists? Are they interested? Is this just an extra faff that they'd rather not do, but the tourists want? I mean, what's been their engagement?
That's another good question. I think about the diving centers, about our best friends. Without the diving centers, we would not do anything. They are like our third, fourth, and fifth arms. They are very different. There are some small ones, there are some big ones. Depends also the ownership, who is the owner. It depends also on the location, the area of Egypt. We are based in the south. There is not that much competition of diving centers here. I can see much more involvement and interest in participating in our activities in the north, in Sinai, so Sharm el-Sheikh and the hub. It's very far from here. I don't know if you can figure it in the map, but it's quite far. So last year we went for the second time, but since I'm the coordinator, it's the first time, to the Sinai Peninsula. And we have run a few training for the staff of the diving centers there. And everybody wanted to have a training with us. They were super, super involved. So, for example, in the north, I see them more engaged. And even before going there, we were receiving a lot of sightings from diving centers. In the north, there is also more competition. There are a lot of diving centers in a very small area. Sharm el-Sheikh is quite small. So probably it's also about, having something that makes them standing out from the others. It's just my opinion. I don't know. There are some diving centers that are super committed. They help us a lot. They provide us with whatever we need. And they run very often training for their staff, turtle talks for their guests, and they help us however they can, also on social media. And so there are others that they're not that interested. When we started to run one of the latest round of training for diving centers in the last 2 years, we physically went to single diving centers with our posters and flyers and manuals and say, hi guys, we will organize training for your staff for free. And then if you like, we can also run some turtle talks for your guests for free. And this is another new thing we started to develop. We would offer your skippers, so the speedboat captains, quite short but quite intense workshops in Arabic for how to behave while driving boats in areas where marine turtles may be feeding, because boats are moving there. They're dropping customers, and they need to know what they should do, what they should not do, and how to do it. It's also free. So just let us know. We will count you in, and we will organize the events. Some diving centers were super happy, and they do it almost every year. And some diving centers, they're just not interested. And I regret to say, I'm sorry to say that actually the ones that are the most interested are already the ones that are behaving quite well.
I see.
So one thing we would really like to do in collaboration with the local authorities that are also supporting us quite a lot is to try to make these kind of trainings, especially the ones addressed to the speedboat captains, mandatory for everyone. I think that would be something useful, but also quite difficult to get.
It's such a nice example of a kind of a local conservation project, some of the challenges that you face, how you're overcoming them, how you're learning about how to engage people, who are the key people to engage, how you might be able to change their behavior. There's so much going on. Two questions jump out, and I'd love to talk more about you and your career and your work personally as well, Micol. One is, you've mentioned it's free to do this, it's free to do that, it's free to do the other. Like, how are you funding the project? Like, where's the funding come from? I'll ask the other one separately. So yeah, what's the kind of the business model if you want to view it that way?
Yeah, maybe this is not how it should work actually. This is a good question to make me think that maybe this is not the way. Okay, I will start saying that I'm not really good at business. I really love I really love marine life. I really love to work with the people. We also organize a lot of, I didn't mention that, maybe we can talk about that later, but we work a lot with children. So we organize a lot of things for the local children and family and schools and so. We have been given quite good financial support since 2022 by Forgive, which is our current official donor. Yes. It's a Swiss foundation that is now building something very, very big here in Marsalam. It's building the very first clinic for stray dogs and cats. Okay. So before that, we received small grants. I think from the Rafford Foundation.
Yeah, Rafford, yeah.
Yeah. So they were the very first one to support us. But before that, when the project was founded in 2011 by my dear colleague and friend, Dr. Mancini, under the umbrella of HEPCA, a local NGO that was supporting the project for the very beginning of the project. So from 11 to 13, it was under HEPCA. Then the project stops, and then I rebuilt the project from 2015 till now. But from 2015 till pretty much 2022, a part of the two small grants of RAFPER, we got no funding. So it was actually self-funding. And it's very important to underline that the project was running just because we were volunteering. So we were not running that many training and turtle talks and things. All this was organized later on when we actually got the funds from the foundation. So the foundation is giving us the money to do all these activities for free, to help local community to get the skills and the knowledge to improve the situation and to protect the marine turtles and all the habitat they live in.
Okay, fantastic. So right now it's a donation, sort of charitable funding model, and there's opportunities, I would think, into the future as you kind of grow to think about other income streams and things like that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole though, because I'd really like to talk, before we talk about you, one final question actually, which we've not really covered is, for all the images and photos and information you've gained about the various turtles, the 800 and so different names you've got now, what have you learned about turtles? Like, where do they go? Have you seen anything interesting? Or what's been the result of the information you've collected?
That's a very good question as well. Well, you can always learn from marine turtles. I really love them. I always feel a very strong and interesting connection with them when I'm in the water with them. But a part of that, there are a lot of interesting facts. First of all, marine turtles along the Egyptian Red Sea, they show very high fidelity for the feeding grounds, which means we mostly see the same individual in the same spot. Okay, so we have Turtle Mustafa that was spotted in 2003 in Mars Abu Dabab, a bay nearby here in Marsalam. Today, Turtle Mustafa, adult male green turtle, is still there.
Wow.
Okay, he loves feeding there. This is one thing. Hawksbill turtle also are famous to be, as a species in general, they're normally not big migrator, let's say. We always see them pretty much in the same spot or nearby areas. Something very interesting we have found in about 2 years ago, we got the final, let's say, results, is a migration pattern between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So we use photo identification. We have colleagues at KAUST, King Abdullah University in Saudi Arabia, that are tagging marine turtles when they're laying their eggs. So what happened first, that in 2016, I found one turtle with a tag, and was not a tag, was a tag from abroad. Was not coming from Egypt, we didn't know from where. So after a long investigation, we found out it was coming from Saudi Arabia, from Riyadh. So this turtle actually was feeding in Egypt, then went to Saudi Arabia, and then came back. Okay. Then the other thing we found out, and this turtle was named by me Aussie, because at one point everybody thought it was coming from Australia, but this is another story. It's a fun fact. The other thing is another turtle in another bay south of Marsalam. We spotted it without tag before, when we registered it as Milka, also another fancy cool name. Then we didn't spot it for 3 months, and then it came back with a tag, again from Saudi Arabia. So she did the trip, and she came back to exactly the same day as before, feeding again in Egypt. So these are just 2 examples. And this is a very good example how different projects, different techniques, different ways how to study marine turtles can be put together to get a very interesting result. It's the first time that there is a track of this kind of migration pattern. And the other thing that I think is quite important to underline is that we are managing to monitor the injury and recovery rates of marine turtles in the wild. It's something that normally who study marine turtles is not really able to do, because basically who is monitoring marine turtles normally has a rehabilitation center where turtles are treated and they can recover, and then they are released into the water. Of course, being our project very small, and like we run citizen science program, we try to raise awareness, to work on education, and but we don't have that money to be able to build a rehabilitation center. So we have to monitor marine turtles in the wild. And what we found out is that they recover extremely well by themselves, not always, of course, but in most cases of the turtles we've managed to monitor along the years, we have seen really, really, really surprising recovery rates. So we have turtles there is one that has a cross-shaped wound in the top of the carapace. When I spotted it, I remember I could almost put my hand through the hole, and after 2 years, the carapace is completely healed, and you don't even see a deformity in the shape of the carapace. So that's very, very interesting. We have, of course, remote support from specialized veterinaries in Europe that are helping us. We are not veterinaries, so it's not just about not being able to treat the animals. I'm also not able to tell, okay, what is the situation here? So with the photographs, we get also this kind of information thanks to the remote support of specialized veterinaries.
Amazing. Yeah, so interesting. It reminds me a little bit of, I've done bird ringing, or bird banding as it's called, where you would catch birds in mist nets or in the nest even, and put small rings on their legs, and then they'd be released back into the wild, and at some point they might be recaptured, and through that you learn about movements, migrations, how long they live, all sorts, just from those kind of simple mark, release, recapture. And I'd love to get to a bit.
It's the same model. It's just we don't apply tags, but we use the photo identifiers.
Yeah, so interesting. Let's talk about you, your career, your passion for marine conservation, and maybe we'll start with that. Like, what sparked your interest in marine conservation, or even turtles specifically? Was there a time or a moment, something that's grown gradually on you? Like, where's this come from?
Okay, I've always been in love of the sea. I have a kind of old relative that was probably a kind of seaman and was the only one in my family. I was raised in Milan, which is a city in the north of Italy. There is no sea there.
Right.
I was desperately looking for sea for most of my time at school and high school and university. At the time I enrolled at uni, there was no marine biology course in my city. Now there is, but at the time not. So actually, I was studying biological sciences and biodiversity and biological evolution. I've been studying in Spain as well, my second year of universities, and I was studying molecular biology and medicine. I tried also during my Erasmus to move to the sea, but somehow I didn't really manage during my academic career. I was really within the let's say more biochemistry and biology, pure biology. But I'm happy about that now because I think that this is also a good base to start, and then you can learn after more practical skills. This is what I did. I've been studying wasps in Spain for my bachelor
That
thesis.
wasps.
Wasps,
Yeah.
wasps, yeah, the
Okay.
insects. And then I was really in love with actually with animal behavior. This was really interesting for me. I was really fond of monitoring and observing animals in their natural habitat rather than staying at laboratory. And in Milan, in my uni at that time was mostly all about lab. I know it's very important, but my passion was to be in the nature, in the field. So my thesis for my master was in the Apennine, something completely different. I was studying the red deer habitat use in the mountains, using photo traps and doing observational transit monitoring the deers. And yeah, so actually I had a lot of experience in the mountain and with the snow. Then, when I finished my university, I looked at positions as a volunteer, as a research assistant, as jobs by the sea. And that's when I got my first position in Egypt. I came here to work as a resident marine biologist in the hotel to lead snorkel trips and to talk about the marine life and the mangroves and the environment here in Egypt to the tourists. So it was something quite, if I look at it now, quite simple, but at the time for me was very challenging because it was a big shift. And there is when I completely lost my mind for the sea.
Ah.
Because I started to be in the water most of the day, and I studied a lot, of course, because I had to catch up with all the marine part that was
Yeah.
missing. And then I decided to get more experience on the field work with marine science. So that's when I went to Australia for 1 year, and I trained in more in field work. I work with the Murdoch University.
Mhm.
Collaborating with a PhD student that was monitoring dolphins in Perth metropolitan water. And then I went to Exmouth in Ningaloo Reef area, and there as well was doing something similar. So it was a lot of time on the sea. I learned really a lot, and I learned a lot about photo identification.
Mhm.
And then I came back to Egypt, and then actually I rebuilt the TurtleWatch project because
Mm.
I was working as a dive guide in one of the main places here. Was a big bay with a lot of turtles, and in my lunch break, that was about 1 hour, I was going in the water. I was establishing the transit. I was monitoring the marine turtles, and then I started to build my own catalog. And then I got in touch with Dr. Mancini, with Agnese, that was the one who founded the project back in 2011. She gave me the indications how we could actually restructure the project. And I started collecting a few divers from the diving center I was working with, and then more, and then more. And then this is how we relaunched TurtleWatch. That's why it's
Wow.
2.0.
It's really interesting, like listening to your story, how at the time it might not have felt from your perspective that you were maybe going in the direction you wanted to, but when you look back, there's so many recurring threads and patterns through all that. Like studying species behavior, whether it's wasps or deer or something else, photo ID, photo traps up in the mountains in the snow, similar to photo traps in the sea and image recognition, then falling in love with the marine environment and sort of circling it. And it feels like you've brought it all together
Yeah,
in the
now I
project you're
can
working on
tell
now.
that
And
at the
even understanding
time.
the dive sites, sorry, just that connection to the dive industry and understanding that side of, that audience that you're serving right now as well.
Yeah, it was very important. My time working in the diving center was very important as well because it made me really able to understand how things work in
Yeah,
that business. I worked for 5 or 6 years with diving centers, and that was very important, of course, because
yeah,
as I said before, they're our best friends,
yeah.
the diving centers.
And you
Without them,
understand them, you can speak the lingo, you can walk into a shop and
yeah, yeah,
get
yeah.
in the door. Yeah, that's it's brilliant. Yeah. Um, when well, I'm wondering which way to go. Yeah. So marine conservation, like more generally, just sort of expanding out slightly. It's an area that's of great interest to lots of people who are interested in conservation. It's also a big area. I see it as like a theme of work. It's like a cause. You care passionately about the sea and the species found in the sea. But then the jobs that you can do are many and numerous. You could be a project coordinator like yourself. You could be a fundraiser. You could be a communicator and educator. You are many of these things, in your role that you're doing. Just maybe paint your own picture. Like, what does the marine conservation sector look like in terms of the roles and the jobs that are out there? Could you give me your view as to what are the main jobs, and even like what are the skills that are really valuable to develop if you wanted to work as in the marine conservation sector?
From my perspective, but this is also my experience, is not just about preserving the marine life and their habitats, but also involving all the local communities that are interacting with it.
Yeah.
This for me is very important. And as a kind of careers, it's really, as you said, is so different and so wide. So even in the marine turtle conservation field, there are a lot of differences depending on where you are. I mean, I'm in Egypt, so I have experience here, but
Mm.
we all turtle lovers or turtle nerds meet once a year in the International Sea Turtle Symposium, and we are going to join the next one in Ghana soon.
Mm.
And there is very, very interesting to get together and to expand network, but also to see how different people are doing different places. And
Mm.
actually, we are all the same, but all different as well,
Mm.
because different places, different challenges, of course. But yeah, as you say, there are a lot of different positions you can cover. It's not just, you don't have to be actually a marine biologist. What we really lack, as you mentioned before, yeah, I have to be also educator. I'm not an educator, but I'm trying to do my best. You
Mm.
need that. Fundraising, I'm really bad at it. you need you need someone to do that. So that's
Mm.
very important too. Also being into computer engineering in our case is very important.
Mm.
I have no knowledge at all about that. So all different fields that could look like having nothing to do with our field can be super, super important.
Mm.
Um, being a veterinarian, for example,
Mm.
could be a lot of different things. Being someone very good at shooting and editing videos, for example. One of our colleagues, she's the one editing the videos for our YouTube. She's a biologist as well.
Mm.
Okay. So either we have to reinvent ourselves as something different and learn different skills, or it would be great to have other colleagues, other people that are actually very good at different things. So you don't have to be only marine biologist, of course. There are a lot of different things. Or even someone knowing very well Arabic, for example, in our case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teachers, especially in my vision of conservation, is very, very important. Education is clue is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So educators, teachers, yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, it just shows the variety of skills, the variety of people that can help and be involved and drive things forward. Yeah.
Diving instruct dive professionals in
Yeah.
our case, because we do most of our activities, for sure you understood now,
Yeah.
it's in the water. So we're one of the few projects about marine turtles that are not studying marine turtles in nesting areas, but in the water,
Yeah.
in feeding grounds. So the in-water part is vital.
Yeah.
So diving instructors, dive guides, snorkel guides are very important too.
Yeah. And skippers actually, just to sort of round it off, I guess too. Yeah. if there's someone listening and they might be a student, they might be a job seeker, they might be a career switcher doing something unrelated, they might even be a teacher at school, and wanting, there's a school right behind me, which I'll point that way. Um, they might want to work and do something similar to you, or their passion is in marine conservation. They might be landlocked and they want to be at the sea, just like you were in Milan. Um, what careers advice would you give someone like that to just move them forward, point them in the right direction? What useful things might they want to bear in mind, or any practical steps they can take?
Well, from my humble perspective, because this is just my path, as I say, it's marine turtles and it's in Egypt, and then everything can be
Yeah,
different
yeah,
in other cases. But if you're really fond of this sector, you should never give up. So first is being persistent. This is an advice my marine biology professor, the only course of marine biology I managed to get in Milan, gave me when I was very young, and I was like, easy to say, but actually
yeah,
true. So keep going. Try to get as much experience as possible. So get in the field, even if it doesn't look like what you really are aiming at, this will come later.
yeah,
And this I can say now,
yeah,
because while I was doing all my different jobs or volunteering positions, I was not really managing to put all things together, but you will at the end, at
yeah,
one point.
yeah,
And trying to network as much as possible, even if you think you are bothering someone. I would say, I'm not like this, but I think it's important to keep asking, to
yeah,
keep trying to connect with people that has already experience in the field you like, and volunteer. I think it's very important. First, because you get the experience. Second, because you get to know the people doing the job you want to do. And third, because it's something anyway you enjoy and you like.
yeah,
And for me, it was, I've been volunteering for like 10 years before I actually managed to get like a compensation for what I'm doing, let's say.
yeah, yeah,
So it takes a while. You have to be very, let's say, it comes stubborn, but probably is not the right word. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm Italian, so maybe some words are not really coming. But I mean, keep
Stubborn
going.
works well. I like it. Yeah, yeah. I think persistent, it comes back to that first word that
Persistent,
you
yeah,
used. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And using the passion to kind of keep that going
yes,
forward. Yeah,
it pays off at one point, but you have to keep going
yeah.
if
Oh,
it's what
wonderful.
you really want to do.
Yeah. As we sort of start to kind of wrap up, we've got some listening. We're going to hand over to them. They can ask any questions afterwards. I want to ask some more kind of open questions of you, Micol, as well. So, like, open, easy questions, but just to understand a bit more about you and your perspectives and yeah, and your views actually on conservation too. The first one is a simple question, not perhaps so easy to answer. Is like, if we could take you anywhere in the world and you could see one species, like where would you go and what would you look at?
Very difficult question.
No, no, it's an
Any
easy
place in
question.
the world?
Difficult answer.
Yeah, because well, the first place that came in my mind just because it has beautiful
Yeah,
landscapes and biodiversity is Australia, but I know it already.
yeah,
I've been there and I know it's amazing. A lot of whales, sharks, dolphins, turtles, of course, dugong, and so. But of course, would be nice also to see a place where I've not been before.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think as a marine conservationist, Australia is one of the top spots
yeah,
where to be because there is a lot of there is a lot of wildlife
yeah,
and also there are good chances to actually get a good job
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I would say not Egypt.
yeah,
But and yeah, I mean balancing the two things, how the place is beautiful, the biodiversity, and also the chances to get a good salary and a good job in this field. I think it's one of the best places where to be.
Interesting.
But it's
And would
just
you
my
go
opinion.
Great Barrier? Would you go Ningaloo? Would you go somewhere else?
Well, I've been in Western Australia. I would like to visit, of course, the eastern side.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Great. Well, I hope that happens for you. You mentioned that actually, it's something to look back on. Like, what is conservation like in Egypt, like specifically? Like, I don't really know much about like the conservation sector. Is there a conservation sector? Are there many charity? What does it? Yeah, is it strong? Is it weak? What's your view?
uh, there are a lot of what I've seen in the last 10 years. that young Egyptians are really interested in getting involved, and they're really interested in preserving the marine environment. I talk about the marine because I'm in this field, but probably also not only the marine environment. I see a lot of young people very interested, and it was not like this 10 years ago. I can say that because I was here and I was doing kind of the same job, but now I can see that a lot of people that is finishing universities, studying, doesn't have to be marine sciences, can be something else, but they're very interested in helping the environment to be preserved, to get. There are not many organizations. They are quite small, but run by people that is really, really motivated. And of course, I mean, Egypt is not a super rich country, let's say. So of course, there is not that much money to sustain this kind of activities. So for sure, when I'm looking for funds, I'm looking for funds from outside, from countries that probably are having more money to help Egypt. What I really like is that local authorities are very interested in getting involved, as everyone has a different background. So they see that we are active, for example, with the tourists and with the diving centers, and it's very good to be together also because our findings then have to be shared with the local authorities so that actually things can change in the real world, let's say. So
okay, brilliant.
There's strong commitment, but of course we need more resources.
yeah, absolutely, and good to hear that young people are increasingly interested too. That sort of bodes well, doesn't it, for the future? One question I often ask, and I'm really interested in the different responses, and everyone's got a personal opinion on this, no one's experts, but when we look at wildlife and biodiversity and nature as a whole, as a global community, if you like, we do hear that, nature is under threat, that, species are in decline, ecosystems are degrading, coral reefs are bleaching, and so forth. Like, the global picture is pretty gloomy, to be fair. What do you think, as a conservation community, we need to be better at or do more of? Like, how can we turn this around?
Maybe one thing would be to be more united, to be more like not a lot of different little organizations looking at their own, we say in Italian, garden. But being more all at once, doesn't matter marine or terrestrial, all together, and trying to get better policies. Maybe because we are a lot, but I have always the feeling that we are always a little bit disseminated around. So maybe we should find, maybe it's a bit utopistic, find a way to get all together and to be like all as one big.
I love that. Super clear. And you knew exactly what you wanted to say as well straight away. It's coming together, working together, having clear policies. So, because one voice is what I'm hearing. A
strong one, because I have the feeling we are all very small and all disseminated around, and this is not like, but it's quite basic and obvious, but at the same time, I think it could make a difference.
Make a big difference, And then my final question, again, links back really to this. Like, again, we hear and feel a lot of doom and gloom, but how do you feel about the future of, we can talk specifically about marine conservation if you wish. Are you optimistic for the future? Like, what are your thoughts looking forwards?
I want to be optimistic because this is what I want to teach my son. I have a 3-year-old son, and I really want to pass on him the message that things, if we keep going, if we keep fighting, things are going to be better. It's a little bit difficult, but yes, absolutely, I want to be optimistic, and this is why I keep going. And this is always what I say when we do our training and our turtle talks. We say, in the case of marine turtle population, we do all this because we know that the population can recover, the trends can go up again. We have seen this in a lot of different countries around the world. It takes time, but things can recover. So that's why we keep going. Otherwise, we would stop everything, and I don't know, I would open a bar on the beach. But we keep the fact that we keep running our projects and our conservation activities and efforts is because we truly believe that things can improve. And I think we have to be optimistic. Otherwise, we cannot we don't manage. No.
Yeah. Okay. And
but the fact can be a little bit. In the last 2 summers especially, I've seen a lot of bleaching here. And before, the corals were bleaching and then were recovering during autumn. And the last summer I've seen quite but still we are still we can still keep going and believe it will things will get better.
Yeah, which really shows the links between biodiversity declines and climate change, doesn't it? Like the two big threats that the world's chasing. You see that in coral reefs and marines so clearly, and you see that on the front line. Yeah. It's been so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your story, your passion, and your advice with us. If people want to find out more about your work and maybe specifically about TurtleWatch Egypt 2.0, where can they go? How can they help? What can they do?
They can visit our website. We're also on LinkedIn, and we have our YouTube channel where we share the stories of the single turtles, Facebook and Instagram. But on our website, we have all the information. If you want to join us as a volunteer, we have a section. You can fill up a form and you can just fill it up and we will receive and we'll get back to you. If you want to report turtle sighting, we have also the section for it. And if you want to help somehow else, we have a support us section. You can have a look. We can enroll in one of our marine biology courses. You can virtually adopt a turtle. Of course, virtually means that for 1 year you are supporting our project and you are adopting one of the turtles. And or just follow us. And if you know anyone that is happy to be a sponsor for TurtleWatch, just let us know.
Yeah, wonderful.
Otherwise, just drop us an email and I will be happy to answer.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. That's great. So it's turtlewatchegypt.net, isn't it? Yeah, we'll drop that in the notes as well. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Micol, so nice talking to you. Thanks again for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you did, then please do hit the subscribe button to get notified of new episodes as they drop. And also, please give us a rating or a review because it really helps us to get in front of more people, and we really enjoy reading them all. As you'll have heard, our podcasts are now recorded in front of a live audience who sit in and listen to the chat, and then after the mics are turned off, they get a chance to talk to the host, to share their thoughts, and also to ask questions. It's a really great format. If you'd like to be in the audience, all you need to do is join the Conservation Careers Academy. Now, in the Conservation Careers Academy, you'll get full access to the world's biggest conservation job board, listing over 15,000 jobs, volunteer and internships across the globe each year. You'll also enjoy access to our amazing CC Pro private members community with regular events, networking and support. Plus, you'll get full access to our growing library of career-boosting resources, guides and templates. And best of all, it only costs a few dollars, euros or pounds per month to join the Academy. Now, to find out more, please visit conservation-careers.com/academy or simply click the join button at the top of our website. See you on the inside.